My friends, I want to talk to you today very simply about government.
Hey folks, welcome back to another home team episode of Diplomatic Immunity. Today, we're at long last taking a look at something a little lighter than what we normally talk about, and that is going to be the football, or soccer for my fellow Americans, World Cup that is beginning this Thursday, June 11th. The first match will probably kick off literally just a few hours after this episode drops. So we'll take a look at the buzz of politics and diplomacy around the tournament because there is a lot of geopolitics that are going on around this tournament this year. So anyways, we'll get to that. We'll also briefly give an update on the never-ending Iran saga. But anyways, first, Tristan, how's it going, man?
Yeah, really, really well. Very happily, I'm traveling back to Canada next week. I'm not excited about the hotel prices when I arrive in Vancouver.
It's not the opportune moment to be in Vancouver unless you're going to a game.
Indeed. But I'm not made of money. I can't do that. But we'll get to that later.
Yes.
That aside, I am so excited to be headed home for a bit. And I believe next time we speak, I'll be speaking to you from beautiful British Columbia on Vancouver Island. And yeah, that's my world right now. I'm just really got to get through this next week of work, and then it's home for a bit. How about you?
It's been good. It was a whirlwind week last week because Vienna Little League. Now talking about serious sports here, none of this World Cup stuff. Vienna Little League had their playoffs, and so we were the second seed in the National League. We had the second best record overall. We won our first game against the third best team in a walk-off in the bottom of the sixth inning. So a kid got up on our team and smacked a shot to center, and we scored from third base and won the game. So that was exciting. And then on Thursday night, we beat the top place team 5-0. We had some amazing pitching, and it was a great win. But sadly, in the championship game on Saturday night, we fell 9-6. But it was a great game. The whole way through, the kids played great. But it was an exciting season, and got to take home this bad boy.
Oh, look at that! That's some new hardware.
Look
Fantastic.
at that! Yeah. So my son was very excited, and the team was great. So it was it was a very. I've coached a few seasons now, but this was a really great team. The kids got along really well, and it was just kind of fun to watch them all root each other on, and everybody was nice to each other, and it was fun. So
I'm happy for them, and I'm happy for you, and it's nice for sport to be wholesome.
Yes, it was, and I'm not sad I'm sad the season's over, but I'm not sad for all the time that I'm gaining back. But it is a lot of time, but it's well worth it. So next stop will be fall ball, and we'll be talking about it again at the end of August, I'm sure. So,
well, this is, I presume, why people tune in.
Well, 100%. Yeah. Now everyone will click off. Now that they know the Super Bananas made it to the championship game, but fell just a little short.
Yeah.
So,
indeed.
Anyways, so we've got a little bit more of an upbeat to some extent, because there's a lot of shenanigans going around
in relative terms for us.
Yes. But before we do get started, just felt like we had to mention that Iran is still Iraning. There's supposed talks going on and deals being floated and things like that, but the ceasefire that's not really a ceasefire is, Israel still attacking Lebanon. Iran shot at Israel the other day, then Israel bombed Iran. The latest breaking news from this afternoon is that the U.S. helicopter that went down today was shot down by the Iranians, and the U.S. has now struck Iran again. So this is kind of the never-ending saga of Iran.
Yeah, and as we've said week after week on this podcast, it could almost only have been thus, And goodness, once again, I think we're going to say this is not going to end anytime soon. Despite, certainly, I think it's fair to say that the American president wants this to be over. I'm sure
100%.
For Iran, or at least there are elements within Iran that definitely want this to be over. Now, I'm not sure Bibi Netanyahu is in any rush for this to be over. And look, this is not going to be over anytime soon. I think we need to be watching quite closely over the next days, in particular, as to whether or not this ostensible ceasefire stays at sort of where it is right now, or we have a full return to where we were some weeks ago. I doubt we're gonna go right back to the tempo that things began with, but
Right.
things are not looking good.
Yeah, I would say I'll just end on, I think to your point, this seems like the most dangerous point we've had in the quote ceasefire. There's been some other episodes where it looked like it could go either way, but this is, it seems to have picked up a bit over the past few days. But anyways, moving on to one of the greatest, or some would say greatest sporting event in the world, the World Cup, and which comes around every 4 years. We Americans get super excited just to watch our team either not make the World Cup or, maybe get out of the group play. This is when I feel like everybody else in America gets to experience what it's like to be a Cleveland sports fan. It's like you wait and you have these expectations, and then nothing much happens. But and I don't know. We have home field advantage this year, so who knows? And we do have a good squad.
And if I can encourage Americans who are desperate to be football, soccer fans, remember that the American women's team is without question the best team in the world. I mean, not just in football, but I think in sport, they're incredible. The men, they'll get there someday.
Right. Right.
At least
this is a fascinating World Cup.
It really is.
From the way that it's even put together, right? First time it's been in 3 countries, right?
Yes.
It's the North American World Cup. The majority of matches are being played in the United States, but you've got matches in Mexico. You've obviously got matches in the great country of Canada. And, so that alone makes this just a huge logistical deal outside of what you normally would have. But it also brings in, and we're going to bring in the geopolitics of this, and later on we'll, get our picks. But, just the fact that this is coupled at a time when the United States has these major immigration crackdowns and visa issues for people trying to get here. You've got, security issues in the United States, obviously around, the Iran war and other issues and protests against the immigration stuff and everything. But even in Mexico, right, you've got cartel violence and things where that's going to be a very important part of that, that hasn't been discussed quite as much. It's, we've already seen, the Iranian team, which has made it. Their first game is at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. But they're not even staying in the United States.
Yeah.
They're across the border in Tijuana. And some of their folks weren't given visas to come over. Their players are here, but there's been folks that are part of that team on like support staff and things like that weren't given visas. There's fans from different countries that are on the, the banned list, and things like this. So it's geopolitics are creeping into this in a way that you wouldn't have expected when it was announced back in like 2017 that we were hosting the games, right?
Absolutely.
Like this is totally different, not to mention just the relationship between Canada, the United States, and Mexico is vastly different than it was back then. So, what is your read on all of the, side issue stuff that's going on outside of the actual games being played?
Goodness, the challenge now will be to keep this succinct and brief. So here we go. Look, to pick up on one of your last points there, FIFA never imagined that they'd be hosting a World Cup in North America, predominantly in the United States, with Donald Trump as president. And so, I think sort of the way things are going, is a bit of a surprise for FIFA as well. Something I think we talked about of course, when we talked about the giving of the FIFA Peace
Right.
Prize to the American president by Infantino, the head of FIFA. One thing that I think is extraordinary, and there's much that's extraordinary, but one is the amount of time that Gianni Infantino, the head of FIFA, has been spending with the American president in the Oval Office. One way to look at this is quite cynical, which is, sort of my where I feel most comfortable in analyzing politics. That these two are made for each other. But if I'm to be a little more generous, I can imagine that Infantino is having to do a lot of very close diplomatic glad handling and management of this president and this administration, which he and his organization never imagined that they would have to deal with. And again, let me return to my happy place of absolute cynicism. The giving of the inaugural FIFA Peace Prize to Donald Trump, as absurd, ridiculous, if not sublime as that was, is all part of this management of having to closely manage not just the host country or the host organization, but like the host president. So that's one dimension of this that is unbelievable. You mentioned by virtue of this administration being in power in the United States, the visa restrictions, the outright travel bans. Iran is playing. They're slated to play in, as you said, in Los Angeles. But Iranians are not allowed to travel to the United States. Haiti as well is banned, and other countries face very, very strict limits. Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire. There are also so-called visa bonds, where citizens of countries are asked to put up anywhere between $5,000 and $15,000 as a bond for them to go to the United States. This includes, in addition to Senegal and Cote d'Ivoire, Algeria and Tunisia. Now, in comes the ambiguity. The United States government has said, if you have a ticket to the World Cup, then we're going to waive that bond. But there's reporting that seems like that sounds like it is ambiguous whether or not that is going to be applied equally or not. There's also, what if you don't have a ticket? And it's just messy, I think, is the way to put it. And just focusing back on the Iranians briefly for a moment. Indeed, the first game is in Los Angeles. I believe they were originally meant to be training in the United States, but in Tucson, in Arizona, I believe. And visas were rejected. Mexico has said, we'll host the team. So they're actually based in Tijuana. And if I've understood this correctly, the Iranian team's visas now are such that they have to fly in for the game on the day, play the game, and then get out in the great spirit of, welcome sport and sport, right?
Yeah. And they do that for all three, not
for
just
all three, indeed.
Which are all in the US. Yeah.
Yeah. Just, extraordinary. And so another dimension is, well, if Iranian fans from Iran are not allowed to go and travel to the United States to support their team, and who will be there? I mean, of course, there is a very large Iranian diaspora in the United States,
especially in LA.
Especially in LA. Though again, we have politics seeping in all sorts of ways here. I was reading this morning that the pre-revolutionary Iranian flag is to be banned from the arena, and owing to worry that those who will be there will be using this as an opportunity to flag the pre-revolutionary flag and make a political statement. So there are so many dimensions to this, and just was it I guess this morning for you, this afternoon this morning for me, this afternoon for you, that there seems to have been some revocation by, it seems, the United States government, though this is ambiguous right now, of the and help me with this, of the ability for the Iranian Football Association to hand out their percentage of tickets to their supporters. This is just like late breaking, so it's unclear to me exactly what's going on here, but there is much afoot.
Yes, and it's just it's going to be interesting to see what the reaction is at these Iranian games as well. Just the sort of like who's there to watch these games, and do they have fan support? Where is it coming from? Are fans able to get in that had tickets or thought they were going to get tickets? So we'll see on Monday, June 15th, when they play their first game against New Zealand, I believe. But this also has important precedents for what's going to happen in Saudi Arabia in 2034 as well, because depending on who makes that World Cup, there's a few countries that Saudi Arabia doesn't recognize, and they have or has disputes with Yemen, and they have they don't recognize Israel yet. Who knows what'll happen by 2034, but so I don't think this is the last time we're going to see these issues, but it's just something you normally don't see in something like this. I think it's that perfect storm of, we're at war with Iran. Well, some would say we're at war with Iran.
An incursion, or to the American president, an excursion.
Yes. Coupled with the travel bans and immigration issues and visa issues that this administration has made it so much more difficult for people to come here. So, we'll see how this plays out. And the other big issue are the ticket prices. I thought, I guess they've got nothing on the Knicks game at Madison Square Garden last night. Those ticket prices were astronomical for the first NBA Finals game in New York since 1999. But these are obviously much larger stadiums, hold thousands more fans, and ticket prices have been ridiculous. What was it? The Economist, I think, was saying that the cheapest tickets were about $2,000 at one point for the final. So, it's also the first time that FIFA has taken direct control over pricing. Usually they outsource this stuff to the stadiums and organizers, and that isn't going very well. This is going to be something that FIFA is definitely going to have to deal with and get right moving forward, because this just isn't going to fly. Adjusted for inflation, the tickets for this World Cup are 2 times what they cost in Qatar in the last World Cup. I remember for years talking with folks here in the States about like, oh, let's go to a game when they come up and when the World Cup's here, and that just kind of went out the window once ticket prices started being seen. It's sad, right? Because it only allows a certain level of individual or groups to purchase these tickets and for people to go to games, and a lot of the true fans can't afford it. And that's a sad reality.
One of the things that's beautiful about the beautiful game is how democratic it is. There are
100%
low barriers to entry to enjoying it, whether as a player or as a spectator. You need a ball and you need a bit of a pitch, whether that's grass or whatever. You kick a ball around in a parking lot, like
right.
It is so well. Indeed, there were almost no barriers to entry. And so the economics of this are just, I think, really quite astounding. And, I think it's really quite sad. Never mind, or let's put to the side for a moment the exorbitant ticket prices and sort of the way that is being handled. One of the things that you mentioned right up at the top is this is a tournament spread across 3 countries and spread across major cities in these 3 countries. So, never mind if you happen to be so well heeled that you've got yourself your $2,000 dollar golden ticket to go watch a match. You then, imagine you're a supporter and you want to follow your team as is, traditional for a lot of really diehard football fans.
Right.
After the group stage, never mind, you got to get a ticket to the next round, but you're looking at flying
Right.
across a continent. As I discovered trying to book a hotel room in Vancouver next week, you've got to then pay through the nose for a hotel room in that city. It is mind-boggling how expensive this is. One, because of the way that FIFA has chosen to do the tickets, but also just the setup of this tournament being across 3 countries, across an entire continent, and indeed this not being an inexpensive continent to be in and to travel in.
Right. Now, I hadn't even thought of that, but yes, that's another aspect. If you're, trying to go to multiple games or, want to see if the U.S. would make it, and you're an American and you've got to get from LA to New York. That's not a cheap ticket. But another issue that's coming up, and if you recall, sports fans, everybody was up in arms about the World Cup being played in June and July in Qatar. And they ended up moving that for the first time ever to December, wasn't it? Didn't they play in December?
That's right. It was relatively nicer.
Relatively, yeah. Well, newsflash, it gets real hot in Atlanta and Kansas City and Philly and Miami during the summer, not to mention Mexico City and places in Mexico. And heat is becoming a major issue for a lot of these teams, to the point where the English team is actually, practicing and has decamped to Miami to acclimate themselves for the tournament. So that's going to be a major issue, I think, for a lot of these, the European teams, especially Northern European teams, trying to acclimate to that heat. They've even instituted, more water breaks during the halves for folks to hydrate and take a little breather so they don't drop over. But that's going to be an interesting aspect to watch. Do we see more substitutions than we normally do just because of, these guys getting gassed more than they would normally, because it's 97 in Kansas City with a feels like 112. So just another thing to watch that hopefully doesn't, take away from the game. Hopefully we're not seeing lesser play because, guys are just dehydrated and exhausted and everything like that. But and we'll see how you did mention the travel aspect of this as well. And they've got a number of days between matches, but it'll be interesting when we get out of group play, and the teams do have to start traveling. What are those distances? How does that affect them? Unlike normal World Cups, you've got like time zone differences to deal with, weather differences to acclimate to. If you're playing your first game in Canada, and then you end up, moving south the further you go, how is that going to affect you if you haven't been ready for that? So there's a lot of variables here at play that we're not used to in World Cup play. So, something to keep in mind as we go forward. But so outside of Canada, who do you think is going to win?
Goodness, I have no idea. I briefed up on football for this episode. I know
I've
you're
seen
a game.
I know you're getting onto some betting site after this and putting your money down. What? So
look, when we put the politics and the economics to the side, what can I tell you about my knowledge of football? I know that this is Messi's last World Cup, and apparently he's very good. I believe this is
the word on the street. Yeah.
Fourth. I think Ronaldo is also a player, and I believe this is also maybe his last. I don't know. He seems both very attractive and very good. This is, and I know that Italy is not playing. Though
shockingly,
though, and here,
the second time in a row.
Yeah.
Insane.
And here I'm attempting to give a non-politics focused response here, but or at least I neglected to mention that at one point, the American president's U.S.-Italian envoy suggested that the Iranian team be swapped out for the Italian team, and as a means of one, sidelining the Iranians, and in one fell swoop, then trying to repair the damaged relationships with the Italians, both the strained relationship with Meloni, and of course all that's been going on between this administration and the Pope. To the Italians'
Well, it
credit,
is one way to ingratiate yourself with the Italians.
Indeed.
Yeah.
To the Italians' credit, they did say thank you, but non grazie. So yeah, I really don't know who you tell me who's going to win. I reckon it's not going to be the United Kingdom, because they don't seem to win these things.
Well, I mean, I do still think they have a good team. Outside of the U.S., that's probably who I'm pulling for. We know that
England.
Our
producer Freddie is very upset with me because I forgot
he is English.
That
it is the English team. Yes,
that's right. The teams of the United Kingdom, the countries that make up the United Kingdom, play independently. So Scotland is playing as a team, England is playing as a team, and again, I know nothing about sport. Do you think this will be another World Cup in which all the concerns of people like us will go away? Will no longer be the focus once the play begins? Just thinking of particularly, well, not just the last World Cup, but also the Russian World Cup. So much discussion, rightfully, around human rights, and of course, as you mentioned with Qatar, serious concerns around the heat. But as I recall,
and the workers
and the
building
stadiums,
exactly,
yeah. Once things got underway, the politics actually did move to the side, rightly or wrongly. But I wonder if this will be another one where the politics will move to the side. I'm not so certain, given that the current American administration is so focused on making this part, about them. For the American president to hold the World Cup so closely, and associate himself, indeed insert himself so much into it, makes me wonder. But I hope it does.
Yeah,
nice to have a break.
I mean, I think it's to your point, it did kind of just become about the sport once it kicked off. In those past sort of political hot potato kind of moments that we've had in recent years with the World Cup. And I agree with you 100%. I think it's TBD because of this administration, this president. Can he let it just move to sport?
Just let it be.
And just let it be. And also, like we've talked about, there are so many different moving parts to this, with travel involved that are unique to this World Cup. Like what else is going to come up in 3 weeks from now? So I hope that we can just kind of use sport as that unifying thing that it is, and move past that, and just go watch soccer at the highest level, and let these maestros do what they do on the pitch, and go from there. But we can hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, anyways, well, here's to a good World Cup. It only comes around every 4 years, so let's hope for a good one. I will say, I was not much of a soccer/football watcher prior to 2006, and I was out at a restaurant that had the World Cup on, and I was watching it, and I was like, these guys are ridiculous. They are so good. And it just immediately turned me into a huge soccer fan, and I've watched the World Cup and the Euros like every time they come around since then, because these guys are just so phenomenal, what they can do on a soccer field. So
well,
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Maybe based on that, I'll actually tune in. The one time I did actually watch a number of matches, this was 2010 when South Africa hosted, and I was working at Canada House in London at the time, And my office was the nicest office I'll ever have, and I overlooked Trafalgar Square, and on the other side of Trafalgar Square is South Africa House. And South Africa took over Trafalgar Square for the entirety of the World Cup, and had a massive screen erected by Nelson's column. And it was very, very difficult to work because of the constant drone of the vuvuzelas, those instruments.
Those things. Yeah.
And my window was just the biggest jumbotron, constantly playing every single match. And so I did watch quite a lot is
didn't get much work done, but watched a lot of football.
Well, hey, the Canadian diplomatic machine is smooth and it runs well.
It hums along.
Oh, there it is. Very good. It does, like a vuvuzuela.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. On that, we'll let these people stop listening to our voices.
Yeah.
So,
is anybody still listening?
Is anybody
at this
still
point?
listening?
I doubt it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hi, Mom.
That's the right question. All right, man. Good to see you as always.
Nice seeing you.
We'll be back in a couple of weeks.
You bet.